Continuing the commentary that Abdullah Yusuf Ali puts in his translation of the Holy Quran, we have the introduction to Surah 61, Al-Saf, the Battle Array. This is the fifth surah of the series of short Medina Suwar, beginning with Surah 57. Its subject matter is the need of discipline, practical work, self-sacrifice, and the cause of the ummah, the community. Its date is uncertain, but it was probably shortly after the Battle of Uhud, which was fought in Shawwal of 3 Al-Hijrah. Summary 1 through 14. Allah's glory shines through all creation, but what discipline can you show to back your words with action? What lessons can you learn from the stories of Moses and Jesus? Help the cause and Allah will come with glorious results. And so we have Surah 62, Al-Jumu'ah. These are the introductions, not the chapters themselves. This is the sixth surah in the Medina series of short surahs, which begin with Surah 57. The special theme here is the need for mutual contact in the community for worship and understanding, for the spirit of the message is for all, ignorant and learned, in order that they may be purified and may learn wisdom. The date has no special significance, may be placed in the early Medina period, say between 2 and 3 Al-Hijrah. Summary 1 through 11. The revelation has come among unlearned men to teach purity and wisdom not only to them but to others, including those who may have an older message but do not understand it. Meet solemnly for the assembly, the Fard pair. And let not worldly interests deflect you therefrom. And we have the introduction to Surah 63, Al-Munafiqun. This is the seventh of the 10 short Medina surahs, dealing with the special feature in the social life of the Brotherhood. The special feature here dealt with the wiles and mischief of the hypocritical element in any community and the need of guarding against it and against the temptation it throws in the way of believers. The Battle of Uhud in Shawwal, Al-Hijrah, year 3, unmasked the hypocrites in Medina. See 367. This surah may be referred to some time after that event, say about 4 Al-Hijrah, or possibly 5 Al-Hijrah, if the words reported in verse 8 were uttered in the expedition against Banu Mustalik in Al-Hijrah, year 5. Summary of 1 through 11. False are the oaths of the hypocrites. They only seek selfish ends. Believers should be aware of their wiles and strive devoutly always for the cause. We arrive at the introduction to Surah 64, Al-Tagabun. I said that Munafiqun is the hypocrites, and Al-Jumu'ah is Friday. So Al-Tagabun is the mutual loss and gain. This is the 8th of the short Medina surahs, each dealing with a special aspect of the life of the community. The special aspect spoken of here is the mutual gain and loss of good and evil contrasted in this life and in the hereafter. It is an early Medina surah of the year 1 of the Hijrah, or possibly even of the Meccan period just before the Hijrah. Summary 1 through 18. Both the unbelievers and the believers were created by the one true God who created all and knows all. Why should unbelief and evil exult in worldly gain when their loss will be as manifest in the hereafter as will be the gains of the believers? And Surah 65, Al-Talaq, the introduction there unto. This is the 9th of the 10 short Medina surahs, dealing with the social life of the community. The aspect dealt with here is divorce, and the necessity of precautions to guard against its abuse. The relations of the sexes are an important factor in the social life of the community, and this and the following surah deal with certain aspects of it. All things permitted by law, said the Prophet, divorce is the most hateful in the sight of Allah. Abu Dawood, Sunan 13, number 3. While the sanctity of marriage is the essential basis of family life, the incompatibility of individuals and the weakness of human nature require certain outlets and safeguards that if the sanctity is not to be made into a fetish at the expense of human life. That is why the question of divorce is in this surah, linked with the question of insolent impiety and its punishment. The date is somewhere about Al-Hijra year 6, but the chronology has no known significance. Summary 1 through 12. Provision is to be made for women in the case of divorce. Insolent impiety always leads to punishment. And we arrive at the so after divorce, we arrive at the introduction to Surah 66, Al-Tahrim, the prohibition. This is the 10th and last of the series of short Medina Suwar, which begin with Surah 57. The point dealt with here is how far the turning away from sex or the opposition of one sex against another or a want of harmony between the sexes may injure the higher interests of society. The date may be taken to be somewhere about 7 Al-Hijra. Summary 1 through 12. The failings of the weaker sex should not turn away men from normal society life. Harmony and mutual confidence should be taught and enforced, and Allah's blessing will descend on the virtuous, even if their lot is cast with the wicked. And we turn to the after the introduction to the forbidden, we arrive at the summary to Surah 67, Al-Mulk, the dominion. We have now done 14/15ths of the Quran and have followed step by step the development of its argument, establishing the Ummah or Brotherhood of Islam. Different than the modern group, although that group tended towards it. The failings, let's not blame that on the religion itself. There is a logical break here. The remaining 15 consists of short spiritual lyrics, mostly of the Meccan period, dealing mainly with the inner life of man and its individual aspects. They may be compared to hymns or psalms and other religious literature, but these short Quranic suwar have a grandeur, a beauty, a mystical meaning, and a force of earnestness under persecution all their own. With their sources in the sublimest regions of heaven, their light penetrates into the darkest recesses of life, into the concrete facts, which are often mistaken for the whole of reality, though they are but an insignificant portion on the surface and fleeting. There is much symbolism in language and thought in describing the spiritual in terms of the things we see and understand. It is the contrast between the shadows of reality here and the eternal reality between the surface world and the profound inner world that is urged on our attention here. This surah of 30 verses belongs to the Middle Meccan period, just before Surah 69 and 70. Allah is mentioned here by the name Al-Rahman, most gracious, and he's mentioned by the names of Al-Rabb, Lord and Cherisher, and Ar-Rahman, most gracious, in Surah 19. Okay, and we turn to the introduction of and summary of Surah 68. I guess introduction and summary is what we're probably going to have from now on, right? Al-Qalam, the pen. This is a very early Meccan revelation. The general opinion of the Muslim commentary is that a great part of it was second in order of revelation, the first being Surah 96, Iqra, verses 1 through 5. See Al-Itqan fi Ulum al-Quran, chapter 7. The next surah, having defined the true reality in contrast with the false standards set up by men, this illustrates the theme by an actual historical example. Our holy prophet was the sanest and wisest of men. Those who could not understand him called him mad or possessed. So in every age, It is the habit of the world to call truth falsehood and wisdom madness, and on the other hand to exalt selfishness as planning and arrogance as power. The contrast is shown between the two kinds of men and their real inner worth. Summary of 1 through 33. Let the good carry on their work in spite of the abuse of the companions of evil. Let all remember God, whom all men are on trial. And interesting, what that chapter 67 is very explicitly used as a bedtime formula. We have a formula in these last two verses, 51 and 52, that regards the, has been used as a formula to treat the evil eye, bad visions of flashbacks, or whatever type of bad, issue with that. Fajda. Oh, wrong verse. Sorry. And the introductory and summary to Surah 69. And since these are summaries, right, did I say that 66 has 12 verses? Yeah, I did. 67, 30 verses, 68, 52 verses. So the introduction and summary to Surah 69, Al-Haqqa. This surah belongs to the early middle period of the Meccan revelation. The eschatology argument is pressed home. The absolute truth cannot fail. It must prevail. Therefore, be not lured by false appearances in this life. It is revelation that points to the sure and certain reality. And that's also 52 verses. So we arrive at the introduction and summary of Surah 70, which is 44 verses. This is another eschatological surah, closely connected in subject matter with the last one. Patience and mystery of time will show the ways that climb to heaven. Sin and goodness must eventually come to its own. Chronologically, it belongs to the late or early middle Meccan period, possibly soon after Surah 49. And the interesting thing about Surah 69 is that it kind of, it doesn't have the bit that it's basically asking a curse upon false prophets. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.